It's day 53 of Zohar Pshat, and we are on Daf Vav and Beis, still in the Aktomas Zohar, of course, and we're continuing with our drasha on the Psukim Ben Yoda, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th line down. The 2, continuing on, Hu Yorad Vikas Ari. He went and he smote the lion. B'zimni Karmoin, in ancient times, Karhava Nahar Hava Mashich Memo Letata, when the flow of the river in Bayis Rishon was strong. Havakar Miso B'shlimu, and the Miso was it in perfection or in peace. To Davchin, they would bring the Zvachim, animal karbonos, and other karbonim, l'chapara nafshayu. And there came down a flame from Shamayim in the form of a lion. They'd see this lion on the Mizbei'ach, rub its artirfei, crouching over its prey, achar karbonim, to eating the karbonos, kigaver takif, like a strong warrior. V'chol kabin, and all the dogs, which of course represent the klipos, represent powers of tuma, hamim stamri kamei, would hide from it. V'nafki levar, did not come out. Came in the garmu chavin, but once the avera started piling up, iu nachis lego dargin the tata, he came down to the lower levels. In other words, the tzaddikim no longer were able to operate, and the Kaviyachol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, came down to lower levels, the Shechina, the Katal Aryeh, and killed that lion. Lo boy l'meiv le'tarfei. They no longer wanted to it to get its sustenance from the karbonos. Kikad mesa, as previously, Kaviyachol katilei. In other words, the absence of the tzaddikim, going with our mahalach, that it's not necessarily the Shechina or Kodesh Baruch Hu, but the absence of tzaddikim, the end of the time by Rishon, eliminated the lion and the protection which it afforded. And the idea was that this lion represented a higher level of Shechina, the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash, and it was able to fend off evil from the Jewish people until eventually it wasn't able to work anymore. But it could be that this protection protected Am Yisrael throughout time by Rishon, despite the fact that there are tremendous averas going on. But when they brought karbonos in Yerushalayim, they brought them with sincerity, and they had a tremendous impression, and they safeguarded the Jewish people, and that was symbolized in the form of that lion. Hui Kos Arivadai, he definitely smote the lion. The Tocha Bor, and he smote the lion inside the pit. They know the Sitra Achar Bisha. The pit is Sheol, the place the Sitra Achar, and the Sitra Achar saw what was going on. Came the Chamasachi, when it saw this, how Sitra Achar is takfus. The Sitra Achar became stronger, and evidently, continuing on to the second Beis HaMikdash, we know that the form that the fire took on the Mizbei'ach, the second Beis HaMikdash, was the form of a dog. And the Zohar picks up on this. The Sitra Achar sent a dog to eat the karbanos. Now, it's hard to imagine that this is actually talking about the dog being a power of the Sitra Achra, but the dog was a sign that the Sitra Achra is operative, and that they no longer had protection that the karbanos afforded in times of the first Beis HaMikdash. Perhaps that's why Chazal had to shech the Yetzer Hara of a B'nai Zara, because there no longer was that protection which would have been at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, which at least stopped Aveira somewhat. But at this time, they no longer had that connection to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Mashmeidahu Aryeh. What was the name of that lion in the first Beis HaMikdash? Uriel. And it was the representation of the Malach Uriel. Pei Aryeh, whose face is the face of a lion. Mashmeidahu Kabo was the name of the dog, Balodon Shmei. And the Derech Emes says Balodon. I don't know his name of a non-Jewish king, but whose face actually turned to the face of a dog, is according to Gemara, I think it's in Chelek or somewhere else in Sanhedrin. But he says here, Baal Adam, Shenu lo adam v'lo b'tzuras adam. So there's that idea of Tzelem Elokim, which existed in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, no longer exists in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. Lav yu bichlal adam. It's not including a human being. And of course, not a lion either. El Kauba, Van Pei the Kauba. And the countenance was like a dog as well. And that's wrote down here actually. It's an Hedges Tagvav, Sof Amid Aleph. And so the actually is there. Balodan ben Balodan. Balodim Malka Ave Vishtani Apoy Vavi Kikauba. His face changed and became like a dog. So that actually is that reference. So again, I don't think the Sitra Achra controlled that fire on top of the Mizbei'ach, even Second Beis HaMikdash. But rather the sign was, the honey kavan chatzif and the klipos, which in time the first day HaMikdash somehow the avodas Hashem, which they had, despite the fact that they were over here, but the slavos, the fervor they had in the avodas Hashem, was able to overcome the Yetzer Hara. To a certain extent, not completely, but to hold the klipos at bay. The second Beis HaMikdash no longer was capacity to hold those kalbin chatzifin at bay, and therefore the fire itself took the form of a kelev, to show that there was this equation between the powers of good and the powers of evil, which no longer was able to help Am Yisrael the same way. And we know the fire in the Beis HaMikdash, the fire in the first Beis HaMikdash actually did help consume the korbanos. The fire in the second Beis HaMikdash was symbolic; it didn't help to consume the korbanos. So it means that there was all the fire had to be brought by us, no Siyat Ishmael from above. And Mida Kenega Mida, evidently that in the second Beis HaMikdash we didn't have that same fervor which we had in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, which is manifest also in the destruction of the loss of the Nevuah and the necessity to destroy the Avodah Zarah, the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah, and therefore it the fire became equivalent in the form of a dog to the klipos, which take the form of a dog. And as a result, obviously, the Kedusha of the second Beis HaMikdash was not on the same level of Kedusha of the first Beis HaMikdash. I'm sure there's much more to it, but that's a Pshat and Mahalach in this Zohar today.